Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've hit the bottom of the hour. My name is Fred Holmes. I'm a triple diamond with our company's compensation plan. I'm an independent distributor for ZJ International. It's my privilege to welcome you to our Monday evening Millionaires in Training call. This is our leadership-focused call for ZJ International. Many of you are accustomed to hearing David Moses leading this call. David is our top income earner, our master distributor, certainly the gentleman that launched this call quite some time ago. And typically, David that handles this call, he's on a brief sabbatical out of the country, and he's asked me to fill in for him. So it's certainly a great privilege to be able to spend a few minutes with you this evening. Now, we know a number of you have been invited as a guest from one of our distributors to join us on this call. One can understand, while we're going to be talking about, our opportunity, we're not necessarily this evening going to spend a great deal of time on the specific issues with our company, ZJ International. Many of you will have additional need for information on our product. Again, that's not the focus of this evening's call. We will have a number of opportunities over the next several days to share information specifically about the company and the income opportunity available with ZJ. We'll have additional opportunities to spend time talking about the product. Matter of fact, Wednesday evening, you might want to make a little program note at this same time on Wednesday evening. We're going to be hosting a very special call strictly focused on our products. We're going to have our company's product formulator, Dr. Russ Donkey, will be joining us on that call. And there's many opportunities to share specific information about our company, our product, the timing we have in terms of our company's growth profile. This evening, our real focus is on the characteristics of leadership, the mindset, the activity sets, the kinds of things that create true leadership in our profession of network marketing. Last week I had an opportunity to fill in for David, and we spent time last week on this call talking about the three characteristics of successful people in our industry, and frankly, these concepts will apply to leadership in really any industry, but certainly specific to our profession of network marketing. We talked about the three essential ingredients one must bring to the table to develop high-level success. The willingness to work, got to have good work ethic, willingness to learn. Unless you're already a professional in industry, you have to be willing to be coachable, learn how to do what we do. And then finally, that burning desire to succeed. You have to be, you have to have your eyes fixated on the end goal, because there's going to be ups and downs in every endeavor that you have in your lifetime. Certainly, that's the case in business and within our profession. And so those three characteristics of successful people, the exciting thing is that in our industry, unlike most professions, those are the only requirements. In most of the I call it the real world, the workaday world, success is going to be highly dependent upon just a handful of characteristics, and it's a sad statement, but it's true. In most cases, these are the things that make a difference in success in the general world. Certainly, your age. More mature people tend to have more money. Your sex. It's still a given fact that men in most professions are more than women. Your educational background, your race, your family background. These are the kinds of things that will typically dictate whether a person's going to be at the top 5% of income earners or in the bottom 95%. Well, the exciting thing about network marketing, and I have to tell you, a number of years ago when I left my previous career as a cross-country truck driver, I didn't have a lot of things going for me that would typically spell, significant success in in my working life. But what I got excited about was when I was introduced to network marketing, and they told me that all of those things that typically spell success in the traditional workplace were a non-issue in network marketing. that the real characteristics, the requirements, if you will, were a willingness to work, a willingness to learn, and a burning desire to succeed. And what I started to realize is that those common denominators of success that are typical in most professions just didn't apply in network marketing. We had, at the top income earners of this industry, we had men and women. At the top income earners, we had young and more mature people. We had people with high-level educational degrees. We had people with, basic grade school education. Young, old, educated, not educated, white, black, green, polka dot. There was, there wasn't any of the traditional requirements for success. And so I got very excited about a profession that I could get involved in, that those three things, willingness to work, willingness to learn, and a burning desire to succeed, that those were the things that would make a difference in whether or not I could rise to that top 5%. And so what I wanted to do this evening is take a few minutes and maybe expand a little bit upon last week's conversation on those characteristics. One of the things that's true, and this is just something that it seems like it makes so much sense. It's, real fundamental, basic common sense. But oftentimes it's the simplest things that we need to expand upon because they're so simple, sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. And one of the concepts that struck me earlier today is this, and it's something I shared with my sons as they were growing up. You cannot give away something you do not have. You can't give something you don't have. You can't teach something you don't know. And that's why it's so important in anything you do to have good mentors. Focus on the people that have been the most successful in your given venture and try to model or emulate their behavior. Well, certainly Jim Rohn says you can learn an awful lot from failures because that's kind of, speed learning. Learn from failures what not to do. But if you want to be successful, you also have to learn from successful people. And so I wanted to take those three characteristics of success, and I want to relate it to the top people in our industry. And I think it's a given fact, it's kind of well known, that our industry mirrors the real world. In the real world, pretty much everybody's aware that, it's that top, 20% of the population that earns 80% of the income. What's left over is actually available, is spread amongst the 80%. And a lot of people say that's not fair, it shouldn't be that way. Well, I learned a long time ago, fair has nothing to do with it. It is the way it is. And in most professions, you're going to be stuck wherever you started. In network marketing, it's probably one of the very few places in the world that the 80%ers can choose to be in the 20%. Most cases, that's not possible in most industries. In our profession, it is simply a choice. But if you want to make that transition from the 80%ers to the 20%ers, the top 20%, then there are specific things you need to do. And again, one of the best ways to accomplish that, if you will, what Jim Rohn calls speed learning, is from other people's experience. Learn from the people that are already successful. So let's talk a little bit about what successful people in our industry have learned. Because to be a leader, one must first be a good follower. If you want to be a teacher, you must first become a student. And that was my, focus when I started in this industry. I wanted to become a student of success, not just making money, because there's a whole lot more to success than just money. I wanted to become a student of success. So let's talk about that first characteristic, willingness to work. You're going to have a good work ethic. I mean, that's just kind of a bottom line. Don't expect any achievement of significance to come without significant effort. Now, that being said, and I think everybody understands that, everybody's willing to accept that. That being said, one of the things that's very important in our industry is to understand how to work. And see, so many people, the vast majority of people that join a network marketing company, they join it because it's an opportunity to develop a home-based business on a part-time basis. And so if you want to be a leader of people, you're going to have to know how to teach people to launch a part-time business within the time that's available to them. And so one of the things that really struck home with me was a little conversation that I heard from Jim Rohn a long time ago. He made the comment that there's really only about 5 or 6 things that one would do on a daily basis that would potentially make over 80% of the difference in success. And when you recognize some of the extraordinary incomes that are being made, just not in our profession, but specifically in the company of ZJ International, 80% of some of those incomes is phenomenal. And so you don't have to be the number one income earner. If you're making 80% of what some of our top people are making, you're going to be well into that top 20% or 10% or even 5% of income earners in the country. So let's focus on the 5 or 6 things that one would do on a daily basis. And here's the most exciting part about this conversation. It is a simple system that can be duplicated by the masses, and it works every time. It has nothing to do with your circumstances, your geographical location, your particular contact base, your particular level of success in whatever profession you have. This works every single time. And what Jim Rohn was saying is that the way successful people build a business is on systems. And so focus on that concept that it's really only about 5 or 6 things that are going to make over 80% of the difference if you do it on a daily basis. And the way he described this was to every evening start, and you can do this tonight, folks. You can start tonight. And just before hitting the sack, make your last duty or your last responsibility to your business before hitting the sack tonight. Take a couple of minutes. Sit down and commit to writing 5 or 6 things that would make a material difference in your business. Well, folks, especially if you're just starting in ZJ, there's really only, 2 activities you're going to be involved in. Inviting people to hear about our products and inviting people to hear about our income opportunity. And so those 5 or 6 things might be taking a note. Think of 2 people you're going to share the product with. Write down their names and their telephone numbers. And maybe 2 other people that you want to share information about our income opportunity. Write down their name and write down their telephone number. And another thing that might go on that list for tomorrow is to be, to spend 30 minutes in the morning on your personal development. Whatever book it is that you're reading at the moment, whatever, CD information, training you're listening to. So there's 5 things right there. Maybe let's include a 6th one, which would be something along the lines of perhaps spending a few minutes, in the back office. Review 1 or 2 of the videos from, our ZJ University. So you've got 5 or 6 activities that you can easily accomplish in most cases in about 15 minutes. 1 phone call to a potential, customer candidate. It might be something as simple as, hey, Mary Lou, I found something that's helping people with joint pain, and I thought about you in our conversation last week. Would you be interested in getting some information? I thought about you. Now, that's a pretty simple invitation. The fact of the matter is, you could allot 15 minutes for that activity and be able to accomplish it in a third of the time. A simple introduction, an invitation call to get some information. So the first step is to commit to writing 5 or 6 activities that would make a material difference in your business the following day. Second step, schedule those activities. Commit it to writing. Open up your day timer or your calendar, however you keep track of your appointments and the things that you need to do, plug them in. You have the activity, a name of a person and a telephone number. and plug that activity into a specific time slot. Could be the first call you're going to make will be on your way to work. Maybe one of those calls you'll make during your lunch break. Maybe one of those calls you'll make on your way home from work. Maybe one of those activities is done before you start your day. I always like to take my personal development reading time and do that during the morning hours, as soon as I get up, when the mind is fresh and ready to be programmed. Now, doing those activities, if you think about it, if you allot 15 minutes, you're only looking at about maybe an hour and a half of time invested in your business. And for most people, if they were to look at their non-productive time, being able to spend 3 or 4 or 5 15-minute increments of time invested in their business, that is realistic for most people. Now, the following day, you go to work. And there's certain things you have to do at your regular job and your activities and your time and so on, but you've scheduled 5 or 6 things from your business, your part-time Zija business, to be accomplished along within the time of everything else. Now, tomorrow evening, you're going to do 2 things. This time, you're going to sit down and you're going to look at the scheduled activities that you had for today, and you're going to make an assessment. Did you complete those activities? If you do, you celebrate. Jim Rohn called this the concept of celebrate or fix. And that celebration doesn't have to be anything particularly special. It has to be meaningful to you. Me, when I celebrate, I do the little dance. Oh, yeah, I did it. Oh, yeah, I did it. For somebody else, maybe it's having, cookies and milk before bed. Maybe it's staying up to watch, Letterman or whoever's on TV these days. I don't watch a lot of TV, so I don't know. But some little celebration that's meaningful to you, that you accomplished your activities. Now, if that didn't happen, if you didn't accomplish everything, then you have to go into the fix component. That's the second half of celebrate or fix. Now, here's the interesting thing. You don't have to be a rocket science to fix it. There's only 2 things are going to happen. If you did not accomplish those 5 or 6 activities that you had planned for the day, the fix is real simple. It's 1 or 2 things, and it will always be 1 or 2 things. Either you overestimated your capacity to accomplish. For instance, if one of the activities was, I'm going to call 47 people in my downline. Well, that was probably unrealistic that you'd be able to accomplish 47 phone calls in a 15-minute increment of time. The other possibility, and it's really the only other possibility, is you did not follow your schedule. You either overestimated your capacity to accomplish, or you did not follow your schedule. So you're going to celebrate or fix, and then, of course, the last thing you do is then you set up the following day's activities. Define 5 or 6 activities that can be accomplished in 15-minute increments, and then schedule them into your day. Now, the exciting thing is, when you develop that skill set, that ends up being very akin to what extremely successful people in our industry do on a daily basis. They have a plan in place, and they work their plan on a daily basis. And if you were to accomplish that and do that on a daily basis for 30, 60, 90 days, it would astound you how much momentum you develop in your business. So, some of the specific actions that successful people do in that first category of willingness to work. Next category, willingness to learn. You've got to be coachable. Well, folks, it's very, very simple. You cannot learn high-level skill sets from people that do not have them. So the first step is to be willing to seek out the people that are the most knowledgeable. And every single one of you has somebody in your upline organization that has created a high level of success in the Zija business. And that's a lot different than it was just a few short years ago when I started. When I first started, nobody was making any real money. We were so small back then. Today, every person can move up the genealogy until they find somebody that is part of their upline support team, somebody that receives income from your activities that will have a commitment and a moral obligation to support your efforts. Look for successful people, and then start to figure out what successful people do. Many of you have heard that little phrase, success leaves clues. I'm going to give you an example that was very meaningful to me. When I first started in this profession of network marketing, I was a cross-country truck driver. I'd been driving, motorcycles, street bikes for years. I went probably 10 years of my life where my only form of transportation was a motorcycle. And so, probably not a big surprise, at the time I joined network marketing, I actually had 4 different motorcycle magazines coming to my house every single month. That's what I was interested in. And what I started to find out as I met some of the top income earners in this industry, and I purposefully sought out the people at the front of the room, the people with the, that were doing the trainings, the people who were clearly the ones making the most money. And I started asking them what they read. And the first thing I found out is none of them had motorcycle magazines come into their house. They didn't spend time reading motorcycle magazines. What I found out is they were spending time reading books that I'd never even heard of. And very quickly I started to see some commonality, some common denominators, books that it seemed like every successful person in my chosen profession had read. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. That was very commonplace. Everybody had read Think and Grow Rich, and frankly, I'd never even heard of the book. Another book I heard very common was James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And again, I'd never even heard of the man, let alone his book. And so what I started to realize was that one of the common denominators of success were the things that these folks were reading, and they weren't what I was reading. And because I was so committed to being successful in this industry, the first thing I did is I canceled my motorcycle subscriptions. The next thing I did is I went out and got those books. Now, I'm going to be, quite candid with you. Reading has never been one of my stronger suits. That's not something I do real well. And so very quickly, I found that, well, if you get the book, what was more meaningful to me was the audio. Back in those days, they were, the little mini cassettes. Today it's CDs. But virtually every single thing that I needed to learn, the books that were being read by the people that the successful people were listening to, I could find that in an audio format. Now, many of you understand the concept of Drive Time University. Many of you have got a lot of great personal development information on CDs or in your MP3 player, and you listen to that while you're driving in your car. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think that's an excellent thing to do. But I'm going to tell you right now, if that's the only thing you do, you've missed a major component in that personal development, that willingness to be coachable, to learn what successful people do. What I found was more important was to set aside, whether it be 20 minutes in the morning or 30 minutes, to listening to an audio cassette tape, sitting at my desk with my notebook, my journal in hand. And even if I only had 15 minutes, start listening to the tape with my notebook in hand and studying it like it was a class, like I was in school. Studying it and mastering it. And then what I would do is I would listen to the tape while I was driving, and in Southern California, we do a lot of driving. But it was additional. It was repetition of what I studied. And I'll share this with you, folks. Some of you will listen to the same tape over and over again, but you will never truly master it unless you take time to study it. And, many people spend, tens of thousands of dollars and many years in school and college to get higher levels of degrees, only to find that it takes them 10, 15, 20 years in their profession to hit a level of income that some distributors in Vija make on a monthly basis rather than an annual basis. So I think it goes without saying it's worth it to commit the time to study. So if that second component is be coachable, willing to learn, understand You have to learn from the right people, do the things that successful people have done, and do it the way successful people have. Now, the last topic we spoke of last week was that burning desire to succeed. And see, this is one of the most important things that I learned about this industry. Truly successful people didn't accidentally become successful. They started in the very beginning with the end in mind. They'd established a goal. Now, oftentimes the goals we establish are money, and I think that's a good place to do it, to quantify success, to pick a level of income, because numbers don't lie. It's easy to pick let's say you want to make $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year. Well, it's very easy to set the long-term goal and then work the numbers backwards. Because it's very simple math to figure out what you got to do today and what you got to do tomorrow and what you got to do the next day to eventually achieve that level of income in the next 12, 24, 36 months, whatever the time frame is. However, there's got to be more than just money. The money makes it easy to do the math, and you can quantify activities. But folks, for most people's future success, has to be more than money. Has to be why. We talk about you have to understand why you need success. Because if you have a strong enough why, the how you become successful just seems to work itself out once the why becomes significant enough. And so attached to the money, attached to the goal, why you need that. What is going to happen? What's going to change in your life? What is something significant and meaningful to you that's going to make it worth the daily method of operation? Consistently doing simple activities day after day after day. And it's really important to understand this concept because most people don't realize network marketing. I've got to be real honest with you on this. It isn't if. Network marketing is one of those rare things. It is an absolute given. The success, and in many cases unbelievable levels of success, are guaranteed to everyone, so long as they go through specific activities consistently for a prolonged period of time. Consistently long enough. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to make $1 million in your first year. I didn't. I'm not going to say you're going to make $100,000 in your first year. I didn't make $100,000 my first year in Vija. But because I was so well developed in those three principles, willingness to work, willingness to learn, burning desire to succeed, when I set out my task to create my Vija future, I didn't set a timeline. My timeline was I was going to do this until it happened. And my why was so firmly entrenched, it didn't make any difference to me what level of success I had my first week, my first month, my first year. And certainly I wasn't an overnight success in this industry when I first started many years ago. I certainly wasn't an overnight success with Vija. But because I had those other three things in place, willingness to work, willingness to learn, burning desire to succeed, then it was only inevitable. And that's the most exciting thing about Vija International and our profession in network marketing. And I can only say this with Vija International, because we all know that there's a lot of companies that have come and gone over the years. But when you find a true legacy company in the making, where you know, as sure as you know that, this is my level of belief. I know Vija is going to be here decades from now. As sure as I know the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, the day is long, and Jesus loves me. All these things I am firmly convinced are real. I also firmly am convinced that Vija International is the lifelong opportunity that I've been looking for my entire time in this profession. And so for those of you that are just getting started with us, or maybe those of you that have been with us for a little while, and you're still working on your development, your willingness to work, your coachability, and that burning desire to succeed, have prosperity, and it's more important than the money. And the exciting thing is that's when it's going to happen. Our profession, success in our profession, is simply inevitable if you continue to do the simple activities that create productivity. You do it on a daily basis, and you do it for a long enough period of time. That's the beauty of what we do with Zege International. It is a guarantee. It is inevitable. And with that last thought, folks, I've certainly hit the top of the hour. This is my allotted time to spend time with you. I hope there's been something of value that I've shared with you that you can take to heart for yourself and then be able to share with others. We have a number of very special events coming up here over the next several days. Tuesday evening, we're going to have a special business presentation on Egypt. That's going to occur same time as this call, 9:30 Eastern time on this conference bridge. That'll be tomorrow. Wednesday evening, we have our product focus call. That is going to be, again, same time, same conference number. Thursday evening, we're going to have an additional presentation on the income opportunity available with Zege International. We're going to culminate it on Saturday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time, with a special fast start training for all of our brand new distributors. There's also a number of locations throughout the U.S. and Canada where we're going to be having special corporate presentations with our top income earners, our scientific team talking about the product. Those events, you can not only find them, but register for them online by visiting zijaevents.com. Again, that's Z-I-J-A events.com. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the lines. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll look forward to seeing you at one of the upcoming events in your local area. With that, the lines are open.
Ohio, great call. Cynthia Bell, Detroit, Michigan. Thanks.
Hey,
Marvin Pierce, South Arizona. Thank you.
Ian Lampson in Oakland, California.
Okay, they're heading in Utah.
Great call.